Okay, Boker Tov, everyone. Back to Gemarah Sanhedrin. Let's share the screen straight away. There it is. Okay, Hannah's the right way up again. That's good.
I don't know for how long though.
So we were talking about how a Kohen Gadol behaves during Shiva, how other people behave towards him, etc. And we've got one little section to finish, and then we can start talking about the king, which is very interesting. I sent out a couple of links on the Leon Bennett Sanhedrin group. Very worthwhile reading those. If you haven't yet read them, very worthwhile reading them after the shiur. We'll get to it later on, but let's start over here.
I couldn't get into the second one.
You couldn't read the second one?
I mean, I couldn't find it. I kept getting what was in the magazine.
Okay, I'll try again and see if I've maybe posted the wrong link. I'll try again. It was one article in two parts. The first
I got
one
the first part.
one, you got the first part.
And the second part, I just got the index of where the second part should be, but it wasn't there.
Right, I probably posted the wrong link then. I'll repost that second part. Thanks for telling me. Okay, so top of the page here, 109 in the Steinsaltz, 19a towards the bottom in the Vilna Shas. We are asking a question. The Mishnah said, well, let's go back to the Mishnah, shall we? Let's go back to the Mishnah. Not sure what page the Mishnah's on, but let's go back to the Mishnah.
101.
There's the
101
Mishnah.
in Steinsaltz. 101
is the Mishnah. Yep. Right, it's on page 102.
102.
I think.
101.
There we go. 101. The Mishnah says, "Ukishahu mit nachem me'acherim," and when he, the Kohen Gadol, mit nachem, you can see that's a hit pa'el form. It's a reflexive form. So it means when he is comforted himself by others, me'acherim, from others. What do the people say? Kol ha'am omrim lo. All the people say to him, Anachnu kaparatecha. We are your atonement, which sounds a bit Christian to me, but it means that the people are taking upon themselves the punishment, as it were, or the sorrows that has been visited on the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol is sick in Shiva, he's lost somebody, and they say, Anachnu kaparatecha. We are your atonement. Rashi says very clearly it means that they will take on the punishment, as it were, for him. I suppose it's anti-Christian, really, or the opposite of Christian, because in Christianity, Jesus is said to take on the punishment for the people. Here, the people are taking on the punishment for the Kohen Gadol. So it's a bit sort of upside down Christianity. That's probably why Hannah was upside down before. This is upside down Christianity. I don't know. It just didn't sound right really to me. I wasn't very comfortable with it. Anyway, I don't think it is a very well. We don't have a Kohen Gadol anyway now, so it's certainly not taken on as a minhag for us today. I think we spent a couple of weeks ago. We spent half a shiur discussing wishing people long life and tenachumu mi'ashamayim and shalot tedu od tsar and all the other things that people say. If you've forgotten that, go back and have a listen to the shiur. I think it's from about 2 or 3 shiurim ago.
What did you say to Shmulik when he saw you?
What did I say to Shmulik? I said to Shmulik, I went to Shmulik's and I said to Shmulik, I said, Hashamayim tenachumu, from heavens you shall be comforted, and I said, Hamakom yenachem etchem.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I did not wish him a Chaim Arukim because I should have done really, because his wife was English, and I'm sure he would have known of that. But I decided to go Israeli, to go native, as it were.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what they say to him. That seems to be what they say to the Kohen Gadol. V'hu omer lahen, and he says to them, Tit baruchu min hashamayim. May you be blessed from the heavens. Now that's a little bit like what we say when somebody wishes you mazal tov, or somebody wishes you shakoach, or chazaku baruch, or whatever it is. Somebody gives you a bracha. What do you say back? Well, if you're English, you say thank you. And if you are, if you're a little bit more knowledgeable than that, you would say, when somebody says mazal tov, what do you say? Johnny, what would you say? Somebody says mazal tov to you?
I don't know, it's just a thank you.
You'd say thank you. Well, that's because you're very
No,
polite.
there is another, Shehem Tesbarach, I think it's something.
What if somebody said shkayach to you? What would you say?
Yeah, I know the word of, I can't think of it. Yivarachach or something.
David, what would you say if somebody said shkayach?
Baruch Tiyeh.
Yeah, we would say Baruch Tiyeh.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Baruch Tiyeh, which means Baruch may Tiyeh, may you be blessed.
Yeah.
Baruch Tiyeh. So the person who's wished you something nice, which is Yasher Koach, which means you should have straight your strength should be straightened, literally. Yasher Kochacha is the correct pronunciation of Shkoyach. Right, Shkoyach is a bastardization of Yasher Kochacha. Probably only Ruby in our shul would say Yasher Kochacha, because he is very meduyak, he is very exact. Johnny, you may remember from Manchester, Rabbi Jeremy Stanton.
Yeah.
He absolutely would not say Shkoyach. He would say Yasher Koach or Yasher Kochacha. And he was very meduyak. So if somebody wishes you something nice like Mazal Tov or Shkoyach or whatever, then the response should be Baruch Tihiyeh. So you should be blessed. So in other words, you're blessing them back. And perhaps this is the origin of that, because what the people are saying to the Kohen Gadol is a bracha. They're saying, we should be your kapara. In other words, they're wishing him something nice. Something nice is that he should not have any tsar. They should have it instead. And he blesses them and he says, Tit baruchu, may you be blessed min hashamayim. Same idea as baruchim tihiyu, which is the plural of baruch tihiyeh. And maybe this is the origin of our custom to say baruch tihiyeh. I don't know the answer to this. Maybe David Marks knows this. Do the Sfaradim say Baruch Tiyeh as well, or is it just us Ashkis?
Yeah, they
Just get you.
They say Chazaku Baruch.
They say Chazaku Baruch, but what's the response to Chazaku Baruch?
Say Baruch Tiyeh.
They say Baruch Tiyeh as well?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try it out on Shabbat with the Moroccans, and I'll let you know what the response is. If it's polite, anyway, I will. Okay, so that's what the Mishnah said. Let's go back to the Gemarah, page 109. There we go, top of the Gemarah, top of the page, I mean. So the Gemarah quotes the Mishnah, Kishahu mitnachem, when he is consoled by others, people say, we are your atonement. And he says back to them, may you be blessed from heaven. Now the Gemarah raises a question, because the Mishnah tells us what people say to him when he is being comforted, but it doesn't say what he, the Kohen Gadol, says to other people when he is comforting them. Now, maybe he just says what everybody else says, which is Shelo tedu od tsar chaim arukim whatever it is that, maybe there is no special thing that a Kohen Gadol says. He just says the same as everybody else. But the Gemara asks the question. The question was raised. Can you see the word ba'aya in the middle of that word there? See that? Ba'aya is, in modern Hebrew, a problem. Ain ba'aya. Ain no problem. Ba'aya is a problem. So ba'aya lahu, they raised a query. They raised a question to the rabbis. Ki menachem hu acharine, when he comforts acharine, others, heichi amar lahu. What does he say to them? So that's the question. The Gemara then answers the question by quoting to us a braita. Tashma. When it says ta shema, what does that literally mean? Ta shema, come and listen. It means there is a braita. Ta shema means I'm going to quote to you now a braita. We know what a braita is. Braita is a saying of the Tanaim, which never made it into the Mishnah. Vahu omer tit nachamu, and he says, may you be comforted. That's all the braita says. He says, may you be comforted. So the Gemara says, well, that doesn't really help me. It doesn't say when he says that and in what circumstances. So the Gemara asks a question. Heichi dami. What's going on here? Heichi dami. How does this work? And then it makes a proposition and then rejects it. So the proposition is this. Ilema, if you will say, ki menachamei acharini ledidei, that this is what he says to others when they comfort him, and he will say back to them, may you be comforted. What's wrong with that?
They're going to need to be comforted.
This is asking the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't work, does it? He's sitting shiva. They say to him, we'll be your kapara. And he says to them, may you be comforted. That doesn't make any sense. He's the one that needs comforting. So the Gemara says, that can't be right, that he says it to them back when he is sitting shiva. Why? Look at this word here, very interesting word. Nachasha.
I thought he said to them, may you be blessed in heaven.
Correct. So this brisa, is the suggestion of the Gemara is that this brisa is giving an alternative to that, may you be blessed from heaven. And instead of saying, may you be blessed from heaven, he says, may you be comforted. But then the Gemara rejects that and says, that can't be right. Nachasha ka rame lahu. Surely that is giving them a curse, because he's saying to them, you're going to need comforting. They're not the ones that are sitting shiva. Why do they need comforting? So when he says, may you be comforted, then if they're not sitting shiva and he is, it's like a curse. He's like wishing them to be sitting shiva, right? Yeah, you get that? So the Gemara says it can't be right. Can't be right. Ella, rather, ki menachem la'acharine, when he goes to somebody else's shiva house, amar lahu, he says to them, tit nachamu, may you be comforted. So the Gemara put forward a rather ridiculous suggestion that he would say to people when he is sitting shiva, may you be comforted. Makes no sense. So the Gemara says, you're right, makes no sense. This expression that the Brisa was telling us about, tit nachamu, may you be comforted, is when he, the Kohen Gadol, goes to comfort others. And this is probably the origin of what we say. Titnachmu min hashamayim, tenachumu min hashamayim. It's a combination, isn't it, of what the Mishnah said. He said, titbarchu min hashamayim, may you be blessed from the heavens. And here, when he goes to comfort others, he says, titnachamu, And we've added on min hashamayim, because what we now say, here in Israel at least, tenachumu min hashamayim. Can you see how it's a combination of the two things? Yeah? They said, in the Mishnah said, that he says, titbaruchu min hashamayim, may you be blessed from heaven. And here, it's may you be comforted. So we put them two together and say, may you comforted from heaven. Okay? But what I wanted to point out was this word here, nachasha, translated in Steinsaltz as a curse. This is a question for David Marks.
Nachesh is a snake. No, Nachesh.
Okay, good. Nachash is a snake. Where do we have this word nachesh meaning this kind of thing in the Torah? David Marks, this is a question for you.
Yeah, it's at the end of Parashat Miketz. Ki Nachesh Nachesh.
Very good. Very good. I thought that you would get that one. I wasn't very hopeful of catching you out. There it is on the screen. This is the story of, you're all familiar with this story. This is the story of the Joseph and his brothers. The brothers come down to Joseph looking for food, and he gives them food and he sends them off, and he hides his silver goblet in the sack of Benjamin. And then he sends his servant after them to accuse Benjamin of stealing his cup. He sets him up, and he tells his servant what to say to the brothers when they catch him up, and they catch him with the goblet in his bag, and he says, "Halo zeh asher yishteh Adoni bo, is this not the one, i.e. the cup, which my master drinks from? Vahu nachesh yenachesh bo, and he even divines with it," says the translation here. He does some kind of magic. So if we go back to our Gemarah tells us this word here, nachasha karami lahu. When he says to him, may you be comforted, it's almost like he's sort of putting a magical spell on them that they should have need for being comforted, i.e. they should lose somebody. It's a curse. So this word nachesh, when I was reading this piece of Torah. Okay, I'll wait a second.
Go on, Johnny. Go on.
Down. He's going to get tired. Most of that payment.
Well done, Johnny.
Still no good. Michael's arm's getting even tireder. Any good now? No?
Yes.
Right, we're okay. So when I saw this word in the Gemarah,
Johnny comes in.
Say that again, Johnny.
Possible the mourners. I mean, I've seen them at Shiva House. The people visiting are also crying. So he's also saying to them, please God, you should be all right.
It could be. But the Gemarah asks the question and uses this word and says he wouldn't do that. That's a bit of a curse because it's saying that you should need comforting from death. Yeah. So we've now finished what we do with a Kohen Gadol.
Can I get you back on that, Johnny? Where else do you find that word in the Torah?
Oh, that's not fair. You're not allowed to do that. Where else in the Torah itself does Nachesh mean to divine?
Didn't we just have it in the Parsha? And it's the medical corps divine.
Anything to do with witches and Yidonis and all that kind of thing? Yeah. Is it? Did we learn it when we were going through the witch of Endor in the Tanakh Shiur as well?
I don't
in those psukim there in where we say Machshefa lo yitchayeh.
Yeah, but in another source.
Go on, give me the reference, and we'll get it up on the screen.
Parashat Shoftim,
Chapter
18, verse 10.
Okay, let's just get it up. Chapter 18, verse 10. Okay, I was right. I was right. It is amongst all of those things. That's there we go. Don't find anyone who will pass their children through fire. Kosem, magician, Kosem Ksamim, magician, Mo'onein, a divine, a soothsayer, Menachesh, a Menachesh, a diviner, or Mechashef, and a witch or a sorcerer. Machshefa is a witch, the feminine. Yes, okay, so there you go. I wasn't far off there, David. I wasn't as meduyak as you on mine, but then again, I've not been a Baal Korah for a very long time, so I've forgotten some of this. Well done, David. Yes, Johnny.
Didn't we have it recently with it? And I remember saying to someone that's the serpent, the medical corps used the serpent.
Yes, yes. That was in last week's parasha with the Nachesh, Nachesh, the snake on the pole.
Yes.
And the reason, I mean, there is definitely a connection, of course, between this word Nachesh to mean divining and cursing and all those things like that, and Nachash. What is the what is the characteristic of a snake? Nasty, yeah, slimy, cunning, magical almost, sort of nasty. We know that's right from the beginning of time with Chava and the snake and everything. The Nachash, the serpent, is got this connotations of unpleasantness, and I'm sure the two words are connected for sure.
How did it come to be on the medical corps?
Because of last week's parasha.
Yeah.
Because what happened in last week's parasha, all the people that got bitten by the fiery snake and wanted to get cured, what did they have to do?
Look at the snake.
They had to look at the pole. Moshe Rabbeinu was told to make
the copper snake that Moses.
And what did that pole on the snake do? It cured the people who were ill.
Yes.
So let's just have a look over here.
No, it didn't. God cured them.
Yes, you're right. But through this international symbol of medicine, there we go. If we put that up there, we'll put on the images. There they go. There we are.
Yeah.
There we go. See that one there? There it is. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu did. And that has become the universal medical sign. There's the medical corps sign there. Snakes on a pole. And it's from last week's parasha. There are hundreds and hundreds of symbols of medicine with snakes on poles. There's the World Health Authority one. There's a World Health Authority logo. You've got the world, you've got the snake, and you've got you've got the olive branch there, which is a joke for WHO, but there you are. Anyway, there you go. So you're quite right, Johnny, but it comes from last week's parasha.
Yeah.
Right. So that's our Gemarah. So let's move on. We're now, before we move on, any questions about the Kohen Gadol before we move on to the king? No, good. Right. Melech. What did we say about a king in the Mishnah? Can you remember? Michael Kraus, what did we say about a king in the Mishnah? Why you? I think of you as a king, Michael.
The king can't be judged by anybody.
Correct. That's exactly what we said. Let's just go back and have a look in the Mishnah. There it is. Page 102, if you're looking in your book. It's on the screen for you. Hamelech lo dan velo danin oto. A king cannot be judged. Cannot judge, sorry. A king does not judge. Velo danin oto. And he personally cannot be judged. So we went, and when we did the Mishnah, a long time ago, we had some questions about this. We had some questions. A king does not judge. Is that true?
Shlomo HaMelech judged.
Say that again, Hannah.
Shlomo HaMelech judged.
Who judged?
Shlomo HaMelech,
Shlomo HaMelech, correct. King Solomon. Which particular case did he judge that we are so familiar with?
the baby and the two mothers.
The baby and the two mothers, yeah? Known throughout the world as what?
Wisdom of Solomon.
The wisdom of Solomon.
The wisdom of Solomon, correct. It's also known sometimes as the judgment of Solomon, because he was judging. So it's not true that a king doesn't judge. So what's going on? Well, okay, there is a difference, and the Gemarah is going to tell us the difference between several types of king, or at least two different types of king the Gemarah is going to talk about. One type of king can judge and can be judged, and one type of king cannot judge and cannot be judged. Let's see what the Gemarah has got to say. Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says the following: Lo shanu ela malchei Yisrael. What does a lo ela sentence mean in the Gemarah? Say that again, Hannah. You're not very clear at all.
Except for.
Yeah, only. Except for or only. So lo ela means lo shanu ela. They only taught this halacha with regard to Malchei Yisrael, the kings of Israel. Who are the kings of Israel?
The house of David.
Not the house of David. No.
No?
No. Specifically not. Look at the next few words in the Gemarah. Aval Malchei Beit David Dan v'danin oto. But the kings of the house of David do judge, and we do judge them. So if the kings of the house of David are judged and the kings of the house of Israel are not judged, then clearly they are not the same thing. Who are the kings of Israel and who are the kings of David, the house of David?
After the split, after King
Correct.
Solomon.
Correct. Tell me about the split, Michael. When did it occur?
After King Solomon died, his son was a little bit bolshy, to say the least, and therefore the other tribes decided to split away and appointed their own king.
That is absolutely right. We have the two kings whose names are very similar, and caused me a great deal of difficulty when I was learning Tanakh, because I could never remember which was which. Yeravam and Rechavam. Okay, Yeravam and Rechavam. They were the two kings, one of Israel and one of the house of Judah. The kingdom split correctly, as Michael said, after King Solomon's reign, into the northern kingdom of Israel, consisting of the so-called 10 tribes, who then became the so-called lost 10 tribes, because before the destruction of the southern kingdom of Judah, which consisted of 2 tribes, which 2 tribes? Obviously Judah. Who was the other one?
Benjamin.
Benjamin. That's right. So the country split into 2, into the northern kingdom led by, who was the lead tribe of the northern kingdom?
Ephraim.
Ephraim, very good. Ephraim was the lead tribe of the northern kingdom. Yehuda was the lead tribe of the southern kingdom. And as we've said many times before, rather confusing that northern kingdom became called Israel, because we are not from them. We are from the southern
Yehuda.
kingdom of Yehuda, Judah, and that is why at the time of the destruction of the temple, the second temple, we were not in a country called Israel. We were in a country which the Romans called
Palestine.
Well, they did. What did they call? What was it called before that?
No.
It was
No.
called Judea. Judea. It wasn't called Israel. It was called Judea. That's why we're called Jews, right? Because we come from the tribe of Yehuda, largely. So when the state of Israel was established in 1948, they decided to call it Israel. They might have decided to call it Judea. I think if it had been me, I would have called it Judea, because it was correcting, if you like, a wrong that had been done 2,000 years earlier by the Romans. The Romans removed the name Judea and brought in the name, correctly as Hannah said, what was the name that the Romans brought? Palestina.
It might have been easier on an international level to justify Judea more so than Israel.
Possibly, maybe. I mean,
but there's the other way. It's the other way around. Judea and Samaria are now effectively controlled by the Arab tribes known as Palestinians, and Israel, and where Israel is, was a lot of it was where the 10 tribes were.
Okay, fair enough. That actually is geographically and politically probably closer to the truth. You're right. Anyway, I wonder why. I don't know. Obviously, I wasn't there, but I wonder what the discussion. It'd be fascinating to have been a fly on the wall, wouldn't it, when they had the discussion as to what to call this nascent state of Israel. Perhaps the thinking was that this was to be a first step in the reuniting of the two split kingdoms, and that to call it Judea would have perpetuated the split, and to call it Israel was a first step towards the searching for and bringing back the 10 lost tribes into Israel and to make us a united kingdom again. I don't know. I'd like to think that that was possibly the thought process. Who would like the job of looking that up and seeing what information you can find for next week? Any offers? Johnny's looking at the ground.
I'm looking at the phone to see if I can find it.
You'll see in a minute, Johnny, why I said that you were looking at the ground there.
Yeah.
The Gemarah is going to talk about looking at the ground in a minute. Anyway, okay, so why have we gotten to this? I can't remember. Oh, yes, Malchei Yisrael. So the kings of Israel, the kings of the northern kingdom of Israel could not be judged and could not judge others. But the kings of the house of David could. Okay, that's what Rav Yosef said. And he brings a proof. Dichtiv. He brings a proof, first of all, to prove that the kings of the house of David could judge and therefore could be judged. Now, he might have brought the proof from the story that we just said, the wisdom of Solomon, the judgment of Solomon, but he didn't. Strangely enough, he brought a pasuk from Yirmiyahu. There it is, Jeremiah 21:12. Let's have a look at it. Jeremiah 21:12 is a very unpleasant chapter. It is talking about, if we look at the top of the beginning of the chapter, can you see it on the screen? Have I got it on the screen for you? Yeah, have you got, yeah? So he's basically telling us King Tzidkiyahu, who was a good fellow, came to the prophet Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, and said, verse 2, go to Hashem and help us out, because Nebuchadnezzar is the Babylonian king, is waging war against us. And so Hashem says back to Tzidkiyahu, sorry, mate, you've had it. I am not with you on this one. Nebuchadnezzar is going to destroy you. And he says, I wonder whether there's something in this, just occurred to me. He says, give in, surrender, surrender. Look at verse 9 on the screen, not 12 where I've blued it out. Verse 9. Whoever abides in this city, meaning Jerusalem, shall die by the sword or by famine or by pestilence. But whoever goes forth and defects to the Chaldeans who are besieging you, in other words, surrenders, shall live, and he will have his life as a prey. He'll be a captive, but he'll live. Why? For I have set my anger against this city for evil, says Hashem. I'm going to destroy it. And then he says in verse 12, he implies why the city is going to be destroyed. He says, Beit David, house of David, Ko Amar Hashem. So says Hashem, Dinu laboker mishpat, execute justice in the morning. Vehitzilu gazul miyad oshek, and rescue the robbed from the hand of the robber. Implying what? Implying, what's he saying there?
The courts weren't honest.
Correct. He's implying that the courts were corrupt. He's saying, execute justice in the morning. I'm going to burn this place down because you have not executed justice. And the second part, and you have not rescued the robbed from the hand of the robber, meaning social and legal justice. You have to act in a proper and just way. And if you don't, the response from God will be, lest my fury go forth like fire and it burn with what no one to extinguish it. Why? Because of the evil of your deeds. Quite simple. Which deeds? Not because we didn't use a kos revi'i on Shabbat, and not because we didn't have mahadrin minah mahadrin meat. No, because the house of David did not execute justice in the morning and did not rescue the robbed from the hand of the robber. Yirmiyahu says very clearly what the cause of the destruction was: lack of justice. And so, I mean, that's just a by the way. That's not why this pasuk has been brought in the Gemarah. This pasuk has been brought to show that the house of David does judge, because they're being told the house of David, meaning the monarchy, is being told to execute justice in the morning. So that says the Gemarah. Let's go back to the Gemarah. That says Rav Yosef proves, that pasuk proves that the house of David can judge, and then therefore can be judged. So how do we know? How do we know that tells us, right? That tells us that they can judge. How do we know that he can be judged? That pasuk just tells us that the king can do judgment. But the Gemarah says that he can be judged. Where do we learn that? We don't.
Does the house of David refer to King David?
Yes, the house of King David means the Davidic dynasty, which didn't last very long. Yeah. But yes, houses.
King personally, that's what I mean.
No, because King David wasn't alive at the time of Yirmiyahu.
Oh, okay.
It was King Tzidkiyahu, who was in fact a descendant of King David. So he's talking about the Davidic dynasty. So he brings another pasuk, and he brings a pasuk from Zephaniah, who says like this. Let's go to Zephaniah. Zephaniah, who was one of the later prophets, says, Hitkoshishu v'koshu hagoy lo nichsaf. gather yourselves together, gather together. Hitkoshishu, v'koshu. You can see the first word is a reflexive verb, hitkoshishu. Gather yourselves together, v'koshu, and gather others together. Now, what the Gemarah translates this as is not the same as what we've got on the screen. The Gemarah, and I looked it up to try and find another translation. The Art Scroll also says gather yourselves together, by the way. That's why I didn't show it you, because it's just the same. But the Gemarah, Rav Yosef, uses a different understanding of this word. He uses them, Rav Steinsaltz uses the translation we've already had, gather yourselves together. And what the Art Scroll Gemarah says is that what this means is, it says, hitkoshishu means search within yourself and then search others. In other words, put your own house in order before you go judging other people. So that means if you're going to go and judge other people, you have to be able to be judged yourself. You have to be held to account yourself. We can't have a situation where those who are doing the judgment of others are not held to account themselves. That's what Rav Yosef is saying this pasuk means. Doesn't really follow with the translation of gather, but when you look at if you look at it in the Art Scroll Gemarah translation, it says, search within yourself and search others. And Reish Lakish says the Gemarah here, Amar Reish Lakish says, kashet atzmacha, adorn yourself, says Steinsaltz, but the Art Scroll says, correct yourself, va'achar kach, over here, and after that, kashet acherim, and only after that, when you've corrected yourself or you've been corrected by others, then you can correct other people. So this expression means from Tzefania means that since the verse in Yirmiyahu, Bet David Koam Hashem Dinu Labok al Mishpat, execute justice in the morning, the house of David, since they can judge others, this second pasuk comes along and says, well, if you can judge others, then you have to be judged yourself. And so therefore, says Rav Yosef, we have proved that when this Mishnah says a king cannot judge and cannot be judged, it cannot be talking about a king from the house of David, because we've got psukim that tell us otherwise. So it must be that we're talking about a different kind of king, not a king from the house of David. So it must be that we're talking about a king from the house of Israel, from the northern kingdom. So that's the statement of the Mishnah. Mishnah says a king, and now we know they're talking about a king from the northern kingdom of Israel, the 10 tribes, king of Ephraim, if you like. He cannot judge and cannot be judged. Why not? I'm taking that down so you can't cheat. Why not? Why can't a king of the house of Israel judge or be judged?
It's in the first article that you sent us.
It is. That's why I sent it to you, Hannah. Let's do the Gemarah. Okay, so the Gemarah asks that very question. And it says, Ela Malchei Yisrael, my ta'ama lo. The kings of Israel, why not? Why can they not judge and be judged? And the Gemarah tells us a fascinating story. Mishum ma'aseh shahaya, because of an incident that occurred. A story. This is what happened. Now, you need to know a little bit of background here, and we will just go up the screen to give you a bit of background. Have a look at this. This is the house of the Chashmonaim. you will recognize some names here. Matityahu. See that? You can see that family tree I've got on the screen, yeah?
Yeah.
Matityahu. Who was Matityahu?
High priest.
The high priest, the head of the Hashmonaim family. He had how many sons?
7 or 8.
No.
3.
5, no?
No. 3.
5 sons. See if I can remember them all. 3 of them we've got there. Shimon, Yehuda, Yochanan, Elazar, I think, was 1. Can't remember the 5th one now off the top of my head. Anyway, we have now got the family tree, or at least part of the family tree of Matityahu. Shimon, his son, became high priest in this period of time here, right? First out of the sons who became high priest was Yehuda Maccabee, and then after Yehuda Maccabee came Yochanan, and then Shimon, right? Shimon was the high priest, and then you had Yochanan here, Yochanan Hyrcanus, John Hyrcanus, as it's called in the Greek name, okay? And he had several sons, one of which was Aristobulus the first. What was his Hebrew name? Anybody know what Aristobulus' Hebrew name was? He was called Yehuda, surprisingly enough, after his grandfather. Not his grandfather, his great uncle. He was called Yehuda, right? But he's known as Aristobulus the first. And he married a woman called Shlomtzion Malka. Anybody heard that name before? Shlomtzion Malka. Never heard that name, Johnny?
No.
Known in England as Queen Salome, right?
Absolutely.
Queen Salome Alexandria. That was what she was known as in her Greek name. But in Hebrew, she's known as Shlomtzion Malka. There is a street after her in Yerushalayim, probably in other places as well. But I happen to know the street in Yerushalayim. It's a sort of diagonal street there that goes down. And I'm ashamed to say to you the reason why I know that street is that there is a fabulous restaurant on that street, which I've been to on several occasions. And my stomach has taught me the name Shlomtzion Malka Street, not because I really knew that much about Shlomtzion Malka at the time. But anyway, she was a good woman, Shlomtzion Malka. But Aristobulus the first, Yehuda, was not such a great guy. And when he died, he didn't rule for very long. Look how long he ruled for. He ruled only for a year. Only for a year. And he died young. And he died without children. So what happens when he died without children, Michael?
Chalitza.
Chalitza or?
Yibum.
Yibum. That's what he did. Yibum. His brother, Alexander Yanai, or Janius Alexandrus in Greek, Alexander Yanai, married Shlomtzion Hamalka. Who was Shlomtzion's father? Does anybody know? Anybody know? Okay, I'll ask you a different question. Who was her brother? David, do you know who Shlomtzion Hamalka's brother was?
It wasn't Herod, was it?
No, it was Shimon ben Shetach.
Ben Shetach.
Shimon ben Shetach. So who was Shlomtzion's father? Shetach. Okay, I only asked you that because of Shimon ben Shetach. Shimon ben Shetach was the Av Bet Din. Shlomtzion's brother. Shlomtzion's brother. Meaning that Alexander Yanai, who was the king, right, after Aristobulus, who was Yehuda, only lasted a year, died. He became king, Alexander Yanai, and he married Shlomtzion in Yibum, meaning the king and Shimon ben Shetach were brothers-in-law, right? Shimon ben Shetach, the brother of Shlomtzion Malka, were brother-in-law to Alexander Yanai. So you've got the king and you've got the Av Bet Din, who are brothers-in-law. Okay, very cozy, right?
Mm.
Very cozy, except it wasn't cozy. They hated each other, right? They hated each other. Well, I don't know if Shimon ben Shetach hated Alexander Yanai. I think he probably did. Certainly Alexander Yanai hated Shimon ben Shetach, that is for sure, right? There was no love lost between them. If you want to read the whole little story here, you can read it. This section I've got up on the screen now. Those who've got the Steinsaltz Gemara, this gives you a bit of a background to what I've just spoken about. So basically,
Johnny, broken up.
I'll wait a few seconds. Tell me
Wait.
when I'm back. Tell me when I'm back. Tell me when I'm back. Any good? Any good? Any good? Any good? Any good? Better? Yes,
Yes.
better. Okay. So not only did they hate each other personally, they had completely different philosophies. Shimon ben Shetach was the Av Bet Din. Which group of Jews at the time ran the Bet Din?
Maccabim?
No, the Pharisees. The Pharisees, the Perushim. And Alexander Yanai, the king, was from which group of Jews? Have a guess. All right, which group was he not from? Have a guess.
Pharisees.
The Pharisees. He was from the Sadducees. He was a Sadducee. He was a Tzaduki, a Sadducee. And they were Sadducees and the Pharisees were at loggerheads with one another. So they were completely at odds with one another. And the story that we are going to hear next week, because we've run out of time, because I have to go to the funeral, is a story that happened between King Yanai and Shimon ben Shetach, the Av Bet Din, which ultimately led to the banning of kings of the house of Israel being judges and being judged themselves. This is the Ma'aseh Shahaya, the occurrence that occurred, and we're going to learn about this next week. If you don't want a spoiler, then don't read on and don't read the articles that I sent you. I'll try and send the second one again, Hannah. If you do want to prepare and have a spoiler for next week about the story, it's a fascinating story. Have a look in the two articles that I sent, and have a look in the Gemara itself, particularly if you've got the Steinsaltz, and read this bottom bit here, personalities. Absolutely fascinating piece of Gemara. I thought we might have got to it today, but then, of course, I always think we're going to do more than we actually do, partly because I keep going off at tangents. But there you are, it doesn't really matter. So we've set the scene. We have Alexander Yanai, King Alexander Yanai, the husband of Shlomtzion Malka, second husband of Shlomtzion Malka, the brother-in-law of Shimon ben Shetach, is going to be involved in a how do you do with Shimon ben Shetach, his brother-in-law, who is the Av Bet Din, and we will learn about that next week. In the meantime, let me just summarize what we did today. We finished off the Kohen Gadol stuff. We now know what a Kohen Gadol says to other people. We saw an interesting bit of etymology from the word Nachesh. I challenged David Marks and he was right up to the challenge. He challenged me back and I was more or less up to the challenge, not quite, but not bad. We perhaps had a suggestion that what we say to Nachumu Min HaShamayim is a bit of a combination of the two things that we learned from the Gemara and the Mishnah. And then we went on to look at the king situation. We spoke about the splitting of the kingdom, the fact that there was a northern kingdom of Israel, a southern kingdom of Judea, and we spoke about this Mishnah saying that kings can't judge and can't be judged themselves applies only to kings of Israel and not to kings of the house of David. And we proved that from 2 psukim, one from Jeremiah, one from Zephaniah. And then we came on to the introduction to the story of Yanai HaMelech and Shimon ben Shetach, which we'll do, please God, next week, although it will probably not be next week because Be'ezrat Hashem, we next Wednesday will be welcoming my son and his family who are making Aliyah next Wednesday morning, and I expect I will still be at the airport or en route back from the airport at shiur time, so it will probably be in 2 weeks' time and not next week, but I will confirm in due course. So, any questions on what we've done today?
I've sent you to your personal account an article from Harvard about the naming of Israel.
Oh, thank you. Excellent.
There are quite a few articles. That was the first one that struck me. I haven't read it properly. I just thought there are a number of them.
Some more, Michael, and send us some good ones, and send them on the Leon Bennett group as well, so that everybody.
I will not be.
Quite a lot of people on that group who listen to the recording of the shiur. So.
Right. As you're not going to be doing next week, I'll be missing the 2 weeks after, I'm afraid.
Okay, well, I'm sure you'll catch up. And we'll be interested to hear your comments when you do. Any questions or comments before we go?
Thank you.
Okay, see you all next week at some time.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Johnny.
Stop recording.